here to help mainly the parents, but for all of us to see what is current in our going on in our teenagers' lives. We have, it's mainly going to focus on some of the apps that may be found on a student's or your child's phone, and then they're going to give some tips on going into bullying and things found that can help you with, understand, and so you can get your child to understand whether it's the receiving end or the initial. So thank you for coming, and I'll turn the floor over to you guys.
Okay, we appreciate you guys for being here. I'm Darren Vincent, okay? I'm a captain with the Sheriff's Office with our Youth Investigation Division. I'll have with me two of my supervisors, Zach Barrett, he's a sergeant with the Youth Investigation Division with the Sheriff's Office, and I also have Matt Republical, who's also a corporal with the Youth Investigation Division at the Sheriff's Office. These two guys right here, over to my right and your left, they're the ones that do most of our investigation for teenagers that may somewhat commit a crime if they're 17 and under. These are the guys that do most of our investigation for us. We've been getting a alarming number of parents that's very concerned lately about social media and a lot of the things that's going on with our young people when it comes to their cellular devices and things of that nature. So this will be our actually third presentation that we've done throughout the community in reference to just alarming the parents and alerting you guys about what you can expect and things that you can do to sort of hopefully minimize some of the problems that you may be having or with your child or children when it comes to their cell phones and other things that they may have throughout social media and the internet as well too. So we put this PowerPoint presentation together, and hopefully it's going to be helpful and beneficial to you guys, okay? And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Zach Barrett.
Like the captain said, we have a PowerPoint. This is going to be kind of informal. We're just going to walk you through some of what we're seeing in cases throughout all the schools in Walton County. It's not really limited to high school. We're seeing a lot of this in the middle schools too. So we'll start with a very basic look at technology, and then we'll move into some of what we're seeing the teenagers are using these days. So social media is defined forms of electronic communication, websites, social networking, which use create online communities to share information. So I graduated from high school in 2002 from Prince Avenue, and Facebook didn't exist. So if you wanted to talk to someone, you could call them, you could go see them. Well, now teenagers can leave school and they can continue conversations, they can continue networking from the minute they leave the door till they get home and go to bed at night, and that's only restricted really by you, the parents. So some basic ways to access social networking sites, computers and laptops. I won't spend a lot of time. I think most of us are pretty familiar with computers and laptops, but you can see there are apps that are designed now that you can't access from a laptop or a computer. You have to have a smartphone or an Android or iOS device. Gaming consoles, and this might be news to some of you, but the most popular gaming consoles all come with access to the internet built in if you have Wi-Fi, and you can download apps on all three of these. Xbox, I know you can do Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, pretty much any app that's available. Microsoft is trying to keep up and make it available to Xbox. So even if you have an elementary school student or a middle school student and he may not have a smartphone or it may be limited or she, if they've got a gaming device, you just need to monitor that because they can access these apps from the gaming consoles as well. So our primary issue is coming from smartphones and tablets. Your basic functions are text, audio, and video and pictures, and you can do video chat, FaceTime, Skype, and we're going to go through some other apps. What we're seeing is that students can get a cell phone even if you've got a plan and you're with AT&T and you've restricted all their access to apps and sites you don't want them to use, and that's fantastic. But what they can do is there's a lot of stealing and trading phones in all the schools in Walton County because we share buses. They meet each other outside of school. You can ask any of the SROs that we take stolen phone reports. It's a weekly basis. It's just become a run-of-the-mill. We're telling, if you don't want your phone stolen, don't leave it out. That's how frequent we have phones stolen. So if I steal a phone, and I take the SIM card out, throw it in the trash, I can't call anybody, I can't use text messaging. What I can do though is use the Wi-Fi. So if I download an app, and we'll go through a lot of the messaging apps, all I need is Wi-Fi and I can communicate. And that's unrestricted. We see a lot of runaways and other children with problems, and they get their phones taken away. Well, they go to school and they trade for money or homework, and they just get a free phone, and they're right back talking to who they shouldn't have been talking to in the first place. And we'll go over some of those apps specifically in a minute. Now, on phones that you can control, all of the apps we're going to talk about have to be downloaded from an app store. You have to have an account, whether it's Apple or Google Play. So most of you have the credit cards. If your kids are downloading these apps, you can get a record of that if you're the one on the account. I recommend that you be the one on the account. Even if they have a debit card, you should be the primary. That will be another access or another layer of protection where you can find out what they're downloading. So these are the most popular apps. We'll talk about some of them in detail. Some of them we're not going to talk about in detail. I just want to quickly point out, if you see the top right, and this is what the app will look like on your child's phone. It's called Burn Note. And Burn Note, unless you are working for the CIA and the government, I can't think of a good reason to have Burn Note. What it is if I want to send the corporal a text message and say something that I don't want anybody else to see, he'll get the text message, and it doesn't just pop up, it says he has a note. So what he has to do is hold his finger. He can read one word at a time. So he can scroll and read, "Meet me at McDonald's at midnight," and when he's done scrolling, it goes away. And so even if he screenshots it, you're only going to get one word. So the only way to know what the message I sent to him is to physically be there when he reads it. So it doesn't take a lot of imagination to see how your kids could use that for bullying, to set up rendezvous with people they shouldn't, or to even communicate with people that you've told them not to communicate with. And that's called Burn Note. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, we'll talk about all those. Tinder is a dating website, so is Bumble. PERISCOPE, we'll talk about that. After School is very popular, we'll go over that. Ubu is a video chat. Vine is video. And then the Whisper, Yik Yak, Meet Me are all either dating apps or they are set up to where you can talk to people who are in a certain mile radius of you. So you may not know who they are, but it'll pop up and say, this person's 2.5 miles away from you. You can just start a conversation with them, which can be dangerous, and it is especially dangerous if you have a child predator in the area. And most of us don't know that, but that's an easy way for them to get in touch with our kids. Security applications. These apps can hide content and only allow access if a specific code is given. They appear to be standard utility apps on the home screen. They'll look like a calculator or an alarm clock. And these are very popular. So we're going to look at a couple of them. A password app and a vault, kind of the same thing. So let me show you the first one, and it'll make a little more sense. This is a calculator app. So if your child has a smartphone or a tablet and they want to hide things from you so that if you take their phone and look at it, you can't find it, they can download an app like this. It just looks like a calculator. You pull it up, it'll do addition, subtraction, multiplication. It'll do everything a regular calculator will do. But if you put in a code that you set, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then instead of doing a calculator, you see over on the right, there's a list, and it'll bring up files, pictures, recordings. So anything they've downloaded, any pictures they've saved, any pictures they've taken, they can hide here, and the only person who can access it is someone who has the code that they set. There are hundreds of these just calculator apps that all look like calculators What they do is they hide information. Here's another one. It looks like an alarm clock. It'll set alarms. It'll go off at the right time. If you set it to a specific time, again, you get access to the files and pictures. And here's another one. This is the last one we're going to look at. It's a video chat. You can type in a number, it'll call somebody, and it works. But if you dial the right phone number, again, you get access to those messages and those pictures. They've even become so sophisticated, some of the password apps, everyone's familiar with a lock screen. You want to lock your phone, you put in a password. Well, now they've created some of these password apps where if I put in 1234, it unlocks my phone, and it's everything that I want you to see. It's all of my good pictures, all of my good text, anything that I don't mind you seeing. But if you put in 5678, it opens my phone to a completely different phone. So I've got a whole different set of apps, I've got a whole different set of bookmarks in the internet, anything that I want to hide. So there's 2 passcodes. And again, unless you are a secret spy, there's just no good that can come from that, especially with our kids. So I want you to be aware of those. Messaging apps, again, we talked a little bit about these. Kik has become a huge problem. They're free to use. You don't need cell phone service. All you need is Wi-Fi. And Kik in particular has taken a page from Facebook, and they've moved their corporate headquarters to Canada. So Kik no longer has to comply with a grand jury subpoena. If I want to find out who the username Walton County SO 123 belongs to, I can send them a subpoena, but they're not required to send me any information. They will still respond to an emergency subpoena, which is if we have a child in danger, and I know the child's screen name, I can send that to them, and they'll only tell me the last time the child accessed the phone where it pinged. So they are still doing that, but as far as finding out who your kid's talking to, what your kids are saying, who's bullying who's set up the meet to fight, who's stalking your kids, you're not going to get any information from Kik because they moved to Canada. Another thing is they don't keep, Kik in particular doesn't even keep logs of what is sent back and forth. They only keep records on usernames, user info, but they don't disseminate any of that. So it's a whole new media available to our kids, and even law enforcement, we have very little we can do to track that, and especially if it's related to a crime, there's just very little we can do. Video messaging apps, these work the same way, but instead of text, you can video chat with someone. These are some of the more popular ones: Skype, Tango, Ubu again. In the middle is just FaceTime. That's the standard that comes on all iPhones and iPads. So here you can kind of see the breakdown of who is using what. You still see Facebook's pretty popular with 18 to 29-year-olds, but I can tell you it's not that popular with 18 and under. They may have a Facebook account, they may have multiple Facebook accounts, but they they're using some different apps, and we've got some resources at the end that you can use to monitor your kid's cell phone. But I tell you, when my daughter turns however old, when she decides to get a phone, I'm going to give her a flip phone, and I'm going to take a screwdriver and I'm going to jam it in the camera, and I'm going to check it every night. So really, I worked narcotics for 5 years, and drug dealers are really sneaky. But the only people I've found that are just as sneaky as drug dealers are teenagers. It's like they have all day to sit around and think of how to hide stuff, especially ones who want to hide stuff. They want to feel rebellious. They, if they're getting involved in things they shouldn't get involved in, they become very creative. We had a runaway not too long ago that used a phone without any service. She used an app to contact Uber and to get a ride, and we ended up tracking her down all the way up in South Carolina, and that was just using social media, dating apps to get people to pick her up. So it's really when I was young, if you wanted to run away, you could hitchhike on the road, But now you can plan these things, scout these things, and predators are really easy on these sites to find your kids, and they'll be happy to pick your child up and take them anywhere your child thinks they want to go. So we have seen a lot of this, and I can tell you a lot of our bullying, harassing, threats, we're seeing on social media. There's a lot of gang activities or self-identifying themselves in gangs on social media. It's almost, I can't think of the last investigation that I worked in a school where I didn't use social media. That's one thing that the kids haven't really picked up on, is once you put it on the internet, it's gone forever. You can't get it back. And so we're able to use some techniques and track that stuff, and it can be useful to us. But as a parent, I don't want my child putting that stuff out there. And I don't want them seeing it if it's out there. So this is basically a rundown of Facebook. I think we're all familiar with Facebook. You post text, pictures, video, and once it's posted, you choose what audience sees it. You know, friends, friends of friends, everyone, whatever you want to do. Instagram, it's similar to Facebook, but it's more of a photo journal. You can set, it can be viewed by anybody or private, which means only your friends can view it. You can also link this to Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Flickr. And Instagram is mostly uncensored. According to them, it is censored. However, if you go on Instagram, it doesn't take very long to find pornographic images. So it's as censored as they can keep up with it. Snapchat's a big one that we have an issue with. What you do is you can take and send photos or videos to friends, and then you set the viewing time from 1 to 10 seconds. So I take a picture of myself, I send it to the corporal, and I want him to view it for 5 seconds. He has 5 seconds to look at it, and then it's gone. Now, in that 5 seconds, he can screenshot it, which means you press 2 buttons on your phone, it'll take a picture of whatever's on the screen at that time. And what Twitter or Snapchat's done is they'll at least send me a notification that says he did screenshot it. So now I know he has a copy of it, which I guess is some consolation. But if I sent him something that I only wanted him to see, and now he has it, he can send anybody he wants. So kids a lot of times think they're sending something and it's only going to go to their boyfriend, their girlfriend, the person they're interested in. And what someone has done is they've created an app that will block the notifications, and it will automatically screenshot your Snapchats. So every Snapchat I send the corporal, every Snapchat everybody sends him is automatically screenshot, saved into a file, and it blocks Snapchat from notifying everybody that's sending the pictures. So he can get screenshots of every Snapchat, and he can just tuck them in one of these vaults and then disseminate it as he sees fit, and no one's going to know that he has saved these screenshots. So it's very dangerous, and you know, kids think that no one's going to see this but the person I'm sending it to. Well, believe me, if they want everybody in the school to see it, it's just a few clicks away, and your child won't know about it until their friends tell them. And that app is called SnapSave, and Snapchat will come out with some new code. It'll make that not work, and then a few months later, SnapSave will come out with some more code. It'll make it work again. So it's kind of a cat and mouse game, but it's just not worth the risk. After school is, I don't know how new it is. I know that we've really learned about it in about the last 6 months. It's created for students. You can join your school and then post anonymously to a running chat board. So you log in and you pick what school you go to, and then it's just a stream of anybody saying whatever they want. If you want to pick on somebody, you can, Sergeant Barrett looks fat today. You just put it in there. Everybody who's logged in can read that who goes to Walton Grove High School. Now, we would like to be able to monitor after school. We had a bomb threat at Social Circle that was posted on after school, and the only reason we knew about it is because the kids told us. And the reason we have a hard time monitoring is because they use a fairly sophisticated verification process. The first is your age, which can be easily, we can easily fake an age on Facebook. The second is your education. You can easily change your education to say you go to Walton County High School. The third, however, is where you run into problems. What after school does is it looks at all your friends on Facebook, and a certain percentage of your friends on Facebook have to attend the same school. If they don't, then you aren't accepted to after school. So you either have to create a fake Facebook page and go attend Walnut Grove High School and get enough people to accept you as their friend, and in high school this size, they're going to know you don't go here. So that just really faking your way in is not an option. And we're only left with students who want to come forward and tell us if something's on there we need to know about, whether it's a bomb threat or bullying or any kind of threats for that matter. We're still working on it. Hopefully we'll be able to get into it. But they posted this on their page themselves. Our school administrators, parents, able to know who was posting and will my identity be revealed. And you see there, they're big on privacy. They assure you that we can't. And so far, they're right. So that's after school. PERISCOPE is fairly new. The idea behind this app is that you log on, you can see a map, and you've got icons all over the map. And what you do is you click on an icon, you can see what that person's doing. You can live life through someone else's eyes if they're skydiving or jumping off a waterfall. Unfortunately, that's not what most people are doing, and all you have is a map. So you can click on anybody, it's live stream, uncensored, and then you can comment, talk to them at the bottom. So as you can imagine, a lot of these icons, when you click on it, are going to be people doing things that you don't want your children to see. And for that matter, you don't want people watching your kids just live life. You don't want your child, thinking that it's their friends watching them brush their teeth or do whatever they're doing, and it's really adults or predators out there watching your kids live stream. So maybe whoever came up with this had good intentions, but again, we're not seeing it used for the right reasons. Twitter, everybody is familiar with tweets and Twitter. What we want to make you aware of, that it's uncensored, entirely uncensored, and posts can be completely pornographic. So you can have settings to help that, mitigate that, but if you have a child and they want to be on Twitter, and that's great, they're probably not going to search for this stuff. But you have to be careful, because if you search a hashtag, and what a hashtag is if I put a post, I like McDonald's, hashtag Big Mac. Well, if I click, it makes that a link, and if I click Big Mac, it'll show me every post anyone's ever made about a Big Mac. Well, that's great for a Big Mac, but if your daughter just got her hair dyed blonde and hashtag's blonde, and then you click on blonde, you're going to get a bunch of pictures that you don't want your child seeing. So hashtags are used for good reasons, but a lot of them take you to a long list of pictures that are pornographic. And it's something that you would see on their phone and not think anything of, because it's just Twitter. They may be following a bunch of their friends at school, but it's just easy access, and it can be stumbled upon really easily. Just hashtag something and not thinking anything of it. When you click on it, you're taken to a place that they didn't want to be and that you don't know they're at. So we just want to make you all aware of that with Twitter. Dating apps are very dangerous. As we know from the girl in Virginia, she was actually using Kik, but she met someone who was 18. He ended up stabbing her and killing her. Predators are out there. We don't see a lot of them in our community, but the thing about these dating apps is they broaden our community to the entire state of Georgia, the entire Atlanta area. And Atlanta is a hub for sex trafficking. We have worked cases in Walton County where we work with ICE and Department of Homeland Security, so it's close by, and that's because of the Atlanta airport. So we haven't had a big issue with that, but the more popular these dating apps become, and the more bold our boys or girls get in meeting people they don't know and have only seen online, they could be meeting anybody. So I want you to be real careful. They're only set up for supposed to be people 18 and older. So if you see any dating sites on your kids' phones, you need to be deleting them or just taking their phone away and giving them a walkie-talkie or something. Here are some monitoring services, and what we like about these is that while we may not be smarter than our kids or more tech savvy, these folks are, so you can pay a fee and they'll monitor your kid's phone for free. They'll send you reports. You can actually go as far as anytime your child sends a text, your phone gets that text. Anytime they receive a text, you get the text. Anytime they make a call, you can live listen in. And you may think that's taking away a lot of their privacy, and it is. But when they have access to so much, you know, that's really a decision you have to make. So these services are available to you. You're most likely paying the bill on their phone. It's easy to set up, and these are some of the most popular ones. We do have some, I talked about earlier, I'll cover this real briefly. We have the ability to get into some phones that are locked and dump them. However, as you can see, the FBI is wanting a backdoor into the Apple phone, so if the FBI has a hard time getting in, you can imagine we do too. There are avenues available to us. We can use federal sources, and you can get into those phones, but you have to disassemble the phone, break the phone, and that requires a clause in a search warrant where the judge, you know, we have to be willing to take your property and break it to get into the phone. So we can do some things. There's other things that we can't do. But if we have the child's passcode, it doesn't matter what they're trying to hide on the phone. We have a device to hook it up to, and we can download that. These are some code sections that I want you to be aware of before I turn it over to the corporal. If your child is under the age of 16 and they take a picture, he or she, and send it, a picture, you know, half clothed, scantily clothed, not clothed at all, and send it, they're guilty of child pornography. If the person who receives that doesn't immediately delete it or take it to an adult and say, hey, I just got this, then they are guilty of child pornography. If they forward it, they're guilty of child pornography. Anybody who receives it and doesn't immediately delete it or take it to an adult and turn it over is guilty of child pornography. And that's a felony. So kids, again, they think they can do this and nobody's going to see it, but once it's out there, it's out there. We've gone over some of these ways people can capture it and hide it, and we have worked, I mean, I'm not even sure how many we've worked in the last 6 months, where kids are taking these videos and pictures and sending them, and they don't realize that they're committing child pornography, and their parents and them are very surprised when we have to call them in and tell them exactly what's happened. So you can see that.
Is that on the sex offender list?
It can, it depends on their age. So similar to statutory, there's a Romeo and Juliet clause where the female is over 13 and the male is under 17. It just depends, but it's a possibility. So it just depends on the age of both of the children. But I can assure you, if your child is sending someone who's 18 or older, that person will be charged, and they'll go to jail, it'll be a felony, and they will be put on the sex offender list. And we do have 18-year-olds in school. I think this is reiterating what I've already said, but teens are able to communicate through hundreds of apps and over any number of mobile devices. Developers continue to improve the security and anonymity, leaving the exchange of text, pictures, and videos seemingly more private. However, the reality is that once an image or message is sent, the opportunity for the sender to protect that content ceases. I can't stress that enough. If you can't find the stuff on your kid's phone, if you don't want to do the monitor service, at least stress to them that once you send this stuff, you can't get it back. Whether it's a threat, bullying, pictures, it's gone, and someone else can get to it. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the corporal. He's got a few slides to just give you some information about bullying.
We're going to go over bullying, and we'll start off like usual with just what bullying is. It's acts which occur on school property, school vehicles, at bus stops, or at school-related functions. And part of that is cyberbullying. It goes along with the apps, anything done over the internet. And the school can also controls over any software that the school provides to the students, which would be the school-issued iPads or the computer lab at the school. Anything a student does which ties into the school can constitute as bullying. And this is the code section, which gives the school the power to put in their rules what they're going to do with bullying. And bullying is a willful attempt or threat to inflict injury on another person when accompanied by an apparent ability to do so. Any intentional display of force such as would give the victim reason to fear or expect immediate bodily harm, or any intentional writing, verbal, or physical act which a reasonable person would perceive as being intended to threaten, harass, or intimidate. Bullying causes another person substantial physical harm or visible bodily harm, has the effect of substantially interfering with the student's education. It's severe, persistent, or pervasive, that it creates an intimidating or threatening educational environment, has the effect of substantially disrupting the orderly operation of the school. And in 5th grade, the students in Walton County go through the CHAMPS program. And part of what's taught in CHAMPS on bullying is a bully is a person or a group who tries to harm people that are weaker than themselves. It can involve direct attacks, be it physical or verbal threats, or it can be stealing or damaging somebody else's property. And it can involve indirect attacks, which is spreading rumors, getting on the internet, especially Facebook, posting comments on somebody else's page. Like the sergeant said before, hey, Sergeant Barrett was looked fat today. And then they post that on Facebook, then all their friends add more comments into it, and becomes a whole group bullying, and that's how it gets into cyberbullying. So bullying has lasting effects on the victim. It can cause extreme embarrassment, depression, fear, anxiety, headaches, stomach aches, and the victim can develop low self-esteem. The victim will have trouble concentrating on school. They may even seek out revenge. And with that, some students we have will carry knives to school for protection. The bullying will become so severe they think they have to protect themselves at school. And that's how we'll get knives on campus. When we talk to some of the students, they say, I was afraid. That's why I have it. And in some instances, you hear on the news all the time of somebody committing suicide, and the cause of it was bullying. They couldn't take anymore. So, and bullying also has lasting effects on the perpetrator. A lot of bullies seem to get in trouble more often, do poorly in school. Some of them will have anger issues and have difficulty making friends. So bullying is abuse, which is repeated acts over time that involve a real or perceived imbalance of power. And the imbalance of power is the key to bullying. As I'll get to a little bit later, that is the main determining fact on whether it's bullying or kids teasing each other. And the imbalance of power can be social or physical. Social, as in terms of they push a kid out of a group, don't allow them into their social group, tell them they don't want them coming to sporting events. Like, we don't want you coming to the game or we're going to beat you up. And this is where we get to the difference between a conflict and bullying. A conflict, everybody has conflict. It's just a general disagreement. Kids disagree all the time, adults disagree all the time. And usually you can find a civil way to work that out. But bullying is actual abuse. Like I said before, it's perpetual over time. It's not just a one case basis. And the abuse can be emotional, verbal, or physical. So bullying doesn't have to be one kid beating up another kid in the hall. It can be through verbal means, which causes the emotional problems. So, and reasons people bully is to be popular. Some people that are attention seekers want everybody to pay attention to them, and so they make fun of other kids. People will bully because they're jealous of somebody else, which happens a lot of times with girls. Some girl has a boyfriend that was an ex of somebody else, so she'll get her group to start making fun of the other girl. And cyberbullying, again, is repetitive, unwanted, aggressive behavior that involves the power imbalance, but it takes place online. And like I said, Facebook has been real popular with bullying because it's so easy. Everybody has a Facebook, and you just post on somebody's wall. But lately, Kik is becoming the most popular app, mainly because of the way it's just chats. So whoever creates the chat room on Kik, they have to invite anybody else into that group. You can't just join into the chat. Whoever created the room has to invite you into it. So one student will create the chat room, invite all his friends and the person that he or she wants to talk about into the room. Nobody else has to actually participate in the chat, but that person will type whatever they want, send whatever messages they want. So, say they want to fight on they just put in that group, hey, meet me at 3 o'clock at your house. I'm going to come beat your butt. So anyone in that chat room sees that message. And the problem with Kik, like Sergeant said before, is the only thing can see on Kik is a username. Then we have to try and match up who the username is to the actual person using that account. And also, you may know your kids have a Kik, but there is hardly any child that has only one Kik username. Most have at least 2 or 3. As we were saying, apps are becoming more popular for the kids to use. They're not just sending text messages as much as they used to. Now they're creating a Kik chat room where they can have a whole group, a whole audience at one time look at whatever they're posting. Some of the criminal statutes that we use for bullying is stalking. Stalking is when you place someone under surveillance or contact another person without their consent for the purpose to harass or intimidate them. And terroristic threats or acts, that's the messages where somebody says they're going to come beat somebody else up or come kill them. Unfortunately, kids nowadays, they're not really into fighting. It's always, I'm going to get a gun, I'm going to come kill you. That's, if you're not watching your kids' messages, that the language that they're using is pretty awful. Where when I was younger, it was always just fighting. Kids fight all the time, but now they've
Now
escalated.
saying that, not realizing that that's a criminal charge.
Yeah, I mean,
How come kids don't realize that making terrorist threats where they can be charged with that?
and when we talk to the kids, it's, well, I didn't mean it, I was just saying it, but they don't realize the seriousness of it, of making the type of threats that they are. And here are some resources for bullying and bullying prevention. StopBullying.gov, AmericanHumane.org, and OnGuardOnline.gov. And this is a recent law called Kelsey's Law. This goes back to the child pornography. This law makes it a crime that they don't actually have to post a picture of a naked minor. But if somebody intentionally causes a minor to be identified or give their personal information, such as posting a picture and photoshopping, say, a girl's face onto a nude lady's body, that's what Kelsey's Law is now covering. Or if they make some type of obscene comment saying, well, back when I was younger, hey, for a good time, go to this address or call this telephone number. That's what Kelsey's Law is trying to curb, because until this went to court, there wasn't actually a law to to protect a minor where it wasn't actually her, but other people were trying to identify that picture as her. So, and the best thing you can do for bullying is document what's occurring. Like kick, there's no record of it. So what you have to do is, if there's a kick chat, you have to go through and screenshot the whole chat. That way you can save what's being said. Text messages, save. If somebody leaves a voicemail, save the voicemail. But hardly any kids actually talk on the phone anymore. So the voicemail isn't much of a help anymore. And also, the school's code of conduct. You have to know what each school's code of conduct is, which will be in their handbook. So that way if something's going on, you know what you need to talk to administrators about and what the administrators are able to do and what they need from the parents to help them in resolving any bullying issues. But the biggest thing is bullying has to be reported. If it's not reported to law enforcement or an administrator, we have no idea what's going on until it's reported.